Greetings. Sister MyRa, welcome to the Hall of MAAT. And today we're going to talk about, the topic is Jason, Horus, and Christ. Okay? And this is the Mars energy. So this is the Mars energy as we are ready for this battle, the new battle for the new, claiming the new rulership for the new age. Okay? That's what the Aries energy is all about. We're going to be working with the energy of the spiritual warrior. First off, I want to greet the spirits. I always like to pay homage to the elemental spirits, Ashe. Also to the ancestor spirits, Ashe. And the universal spirits, Ashe. Have them come in here and fill up these seats and bring their energy and information, okay? Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about Jason, Horus, and Christ. And, of course, as you've heard me say before about the Aries energy, is a cardinal energy, which makes it the energy of leadership. It's the energy of royalty, okay? The actual initiation of the spring, you see, the cardinal energy, the new beginnings. It's a fire energy. So we're going to be dealing with our passions. This is also our protection, you see. I want to give you some information about the elements. I did this little, Spirit just kind of gave this to me. And I want to explain how this energies work. You see, the energies work through the elements. We have first the water, and what we have to do is conquer or master the water level, which is our emotional level, okay? And that's also at a higher vibration. We're talking about the soul level, okay? And then the next level we have to conquer, which is demonstrated right here. That's the water. This is demonstrated right here is the water. As above, so below. This is representing the below, and this is the above, and how energy unfolds or manifests itself. And this is the water that we're looking at, which comes from the water here in this part of the pyramid. The next level that we have to conquer is the air, which is the mental level. We have to master that. And the mental level is where we get in touch with the spirit. Okay, at the higher level, it's the spiritual level, where we deal with our spirit energy. Okay, and then the third level we conquer is the fire, and that's what I'm trying to get to now, is the fire energy. Now, fire energy deals with our passions, and it deals with the divinity level. This is where we access our magic at. This is where we access our power at, you know, in the fire energy, you see. And then the final level we deal with will be the earth level. And see, we've got it backwards. You know, we're living the earth or material level, and then we're trying to force spirit to deal on our level with us. So we have to turn it around now, and like I said, conquer the water, conquer the air, and then conquer the fire. And then after you've conquered those three levels, then is when it makes the physical manifestation in the earth level, you see. And when we're dealing with the water, we're dealing with our emotions. When we're dealing with the air, we're dealing with how we think, our peace of mind. When we're dealing with the fire, like I said, we're dealing with our passions. And then when we're dealing with the earth level, there has to be value, okay? And when you put all that together, that's when you manifest your power. That's when the magic comes through. But it has to be an action of integrity. Has to be an action with character in order to manifest in that physical reality, you see. I just wanted to kind of give you that, that information here. Like I said, the soul is the water, that's the mother. The spirit is the air, that's like the daughter. And then the earth, you know, that's like the crystallization, and that's the father. And then the fire is the power. And so you see that's like the below or the earth, and the red is like the fire or the power, connecting it up with the universal whole. And then the fifth element is the ether around that, which is a conductor for that. you see. That's how we manifest our power. Now, so the Aries energy, the fire, as I said, this is where we tap into our magic at. This is where we get, the reason we're focusing on Jason and Horus is because these are where our heroes come from, you see. These are the ones that have to perform miraculous feats in order to conquer the things that would keep us in the illusion, in the physical reality, you see. So this is where we stand up, you know, with Aries representing the spiritual warrior. This is where we stand up and make our claim, you know, to master the spiritual warriorship, to claim the rulership, you see, which is the Aries or the next fire sign that it would connect up to, you see. All the same elements are going to be in harmony with one another. So not only does the Aries get highlighted, but the Leo, which is the other fire sign, and the Sagittarius, which is the third fire sign, they all get highlighted also, you see. So when we step up and make our claim, you know, to our power, which is what the Aries is what we're doing, you see, that empowers us to step up to our rulership in the Leo. And then in the Sagittarius, this is spiritual wisdom and expansion, you see. So I wanted to read you a little bit about Jason so you can get an idea. Before, I did a lecture here which was called the symbolism that they did not want us to see. And in this lecture, I talked about Hercules. And I identified Hercules as symbolic of the Aries energy, but it's the lowest manifestation. This is about the man of strength, which is actually representing the white man, okay, who controlled the gods, in other words. And we talked about how he had to go through this twin gateway in order to shut down the apocalyptic feminine energy, you see. So I got all this, I tied all this into Aaliyah, you know, the 911, and all of this, and how it relates to the white man and Hercules going through that twin gateway. And in that, I was talking about Hercules being a symbolic of the Aries energy at its lowest manifestation, but then Jason being the higher manifestation of that Aries energy, which actually represented us. So I'm going to, it says here, we come now to the myth for Aries. Both are solar, heroic stories about young, naive, independent, supremely confident heroes. In the first story, Hercules learns the importance of turning to his friend Mercury, his esoteric ruler. In the second story, Jason, he learns the need to acknowledge at least the principles of Eros, child of goddess Aphrodite, if not also the need to sacrifice his restless independence to Eros and settle down with a mate, you see. So the Jason story is more about settling down. The Hercules story was about shutting down the reality, going through the twin gateways when we're talking about illusions versus reality. Reality, of course, is spirituality, and the physical is the illusion. And so the Hercules, or the white man, wants to keep the illusion intact, you know, so that the spiritual reality does not manifest itself. So that is the Hercules story. But now we're moving to the Jason story, where it's about how do we fulfill the prophecy, you see, the prophecy of the return, you know, of the ancient ones, you see, because that's who we are. And this is the story that Jason is going to represent for us, okay? It says, Jason's quest for the solar treasure, the golden fleece, and the throne that is his birthright. It says Jason is looking for the golden fleece. It says, however, like most of us, he is not aware in the beginning of how difficult the quest for this fleece will be. He sets out with his 11 trusted friends on behalf of his uncle, and from whom the fleece had been stolen, to retrieve it from Greece. He lands in Caucasus and discovers that the rumors were correct, that the fleece is there under guard. But the king of Colchis has no intentions of parting with such a treasure, but he is too old to fight Jason personally and does not want to lose face. Instead, he offers Jason a task. Do the impossible, and I will certainly and willingly yield the fleece. The task is to harness 2 fire-breathing bulls to a plow made of dragon's teeth and sow a field. However, as soon as Jason would finish sowing, the dragon's teeth would spring forth as warriors ready to kill him in the defense of the fleece. Since this is an Aries myth, and Aries often attempts what others would consider impossible, Jason, participating in the archetype, says, "Of course I can do it." And the king of Colchis thought this task likely to discourage our young hero and cause him to lose interest in the quest. Of course, a hero does not appreciate delay, and Jason does have a temporary bout of faint-heartedness. This is not a problem. Mars can solve in its own style independently. It goes on to say that he prays for an ally. He prays to the goddess of love, Aphrodite, and she sends him Medea, who is like a witch, you see. And the witch comes in, and she has a vial of oil which she pours on the dragon's teeth as Jason finishes plowing so that the teeth will not become warriors. Together the two complete the task for the king, and theoretically the golden fleece is now Jason's. However, life is full of complications, and Jason discovered that he still has to fight a pitched battle against Medea's father. By the end of the story, when Jason, his friends, and Medea sail off with the golden fleece, Medea feels that she has been betrayed. She has betrayed her family. Her aid to Jason has resulted in the death of her father, the brother, her cousin, and her use of soothing oil has resulted in violence. And then it talks about how when Jason he falls in love with another lady, okay, after the battle has been won. And he tells Medea that she is expendable, and he is now in love with the princess of Corinth. And she shrieks, "After all what I've done for you, I betrayed my family and my country, after all the blood on my hands because of helping you." And he says logically, "Oh no, I don't owe you anything. It's the goddess who helped me, Aphrodite answered my prayer by sending you along and making you fall in love with me. It's Aphrodite who aided me, not some mere mortal sorceress." Thus was the end of the story. Medea was feeling vindictive and vengeful, and this was the beginning of her evolution into a terrible mother who would one day devour her own children, you see. So this is the story of him, you know, the golden fleece. There's another story in here that has to do with Jason trying to gain the golden fleece, and I wanted to read this part because in it says, have you guys heard about Jason and the 50 Argonauts? Have you ever seen? I'm surprised at how many people have not heard this. Yeah. Yeah, the movie probably been on 1,000 times, you know, the dragon's teeth, and you'll see them come up, and, you know, yeah, the skeletons come up. Yeah, that's Jason. That's the Jason story and the 50 Argonauts, okay? And it says here, it says, Jason and the Argonauts, the hero Jason, wishes to search for the golden fleece, which is known to be a solar symbol. It says the hero, his teeth are the teeth of a dragon. And in the Jason story, the hero Jason sows the dragon's teeth. It says the 50 companions are mentioned several times. It says in fragmentary text, it is extremely broken and confused. Further light on it of sowing the dragon's teeth seemed to come from a passage where Jason, who has for some unknown reason been asleep, has awakened, girded himself, stood like a bull on the great earth, and he put his mouth to the ground, and his teeth shook. And that's when these armies stood up. Now, it says for some reason Jason had been asleep, okay? And I see that as us, you see, asleep, you see. And now he's trying to wake up, you see. It all leads back into, we go on to where when he gets the golden fleece and his 50 companions, and, you know, it leads us up to the story where we're talking about him getting on a boat. And they call this the celestial ship, you see. So the story is all about Jason waking up, and I'm still trying to make sense of what this dragon teeth symbolizes, you see, bones or teeth, you see, and that is what he throws into the ground, and the ground shakes, and this huge army raises up, you know, to defend, you know, in his defense, you see, to help him gain control of the fleece. And once he gains control of the fleece, then they can go and they can move. This group of 50 is related to some oarsmen in a celestial boat. And then what they do is connect the celestial boat to like the Ark of Noah. And it is the same concept, which is identical with that of the Ark of Noah, which is a magical ship in which sit those who came out of the womb, in the sense that they repopulate the world after the great deluge, okay? And the deluge, we're talking about the great flood, okay, in the sense of Noah. But if you want to equate that to today, we're looking at this representing Aries or Jason, the energy, because remember, we're talking energies. We're just giving them characteristics so we can understand the story. Now, Jason representing the Aries energy, and attached to the Libra energy. This is where the Christ energy comes in at. Opposite signs are really the same signs. They're just demonstrating opposite sides of the picture. One's demonstrating the physical side and one's demonstrating the spiritual side. So we're talking about a physical warriorship, you see, which brings us to the spiritual Christ in the Libra energy, which is the opposite of the Aries. We're talking about the Christ. Now, as we make our claim and gain, you know, the right to the golden fleece or the rulership, the solar rulership, then we have to use the spirit, or it brings us to the spirit, or connecting with our Christ energy, okay, which is the Libra energy, and this represents the Christ energy. Now, the next sign after that is Scorpio, which is the great deluge, or what they're talking about, the flood, in relations to the flood after Noah's Ark, you see. This is the flood that's going. Once we fight for our spiritual warriorship, which is putting these two together, you see, then that gives us the great crossover in the Scorpio energy, which is that water, or that flood, or that deluge, which takes us into the Sagittarius energy, which is what we call the great creative place, you see. And I did a lecture, my first lecture that I did here, I was talking about, I brought up the Mayans calendar of 2012, when this gateway is supposed to open up on December 21st, 2012, you see. And this is what that is symbolizing, that gateway that opens up in 2012. And this is us bringing our Christ, or getting in touch with our spirit energy after we have made our personal claim, you see, as warriors for this in the Aries energy, and then making that great crossover through that Scorpio energy, you know, which is the transformation. Scorpio represents the transformation, and that's the passageway over onto the, and then as we move into the Sagittarius, they call that, the Mayans called it the great creative place, you see, because Sagittarius, its energy is ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is actually representing, you know, abundance or expansion, or where you gain your fortune at. And this is what they call the great creative place. In 2012, December 21st is when this gateway is supposed to open, and it's reflected in the Milky Way, you see, how that great crossover is going to take us over to the creative place, which they identify as the Sagittarius energy, you see. So it all starts here in the Aries energy, which becomes the warrior for justice, or for harmony, or for peace, or for getting in harmony with our spirit, you see. And when we're talking about the collective spirit, we're talking about getting in harmony with the Christ spirit, you see. That is going to be the only thing that's going to lead us to over this transformation, or the Scorpio water, you know, to the great creative place, you see. So this is one of the reasons why the Aries energy is so important. It represents the new beginning from the physical side and how we take our personal role, okay? This is where you get the stories of King Arthur and all having to pull the sword out. Who is worthy, okay? So that is the hero that we identify with at a personal level in the Aries, you see. And this is where all those fairy tales come into play. You see, the prince that had to slay the dragon in order to rescue the princess, you see, because not only are we, here we're representing the masculine energy, and here we're representing the feminine, you see, because of Venus, and then we have Mars here. So everything, anytime we want to come into a fulfillment, we always have to balance opposites, you see. You can only create by balancing opposites. Two halves come together to make a whole. It's the only way to create, you see. So you have to, in other words, stand up in your Aries energy for that warriorship as symbolized by the Jason, you know, in order to open up and tap into that Christ energy, which is the feminine half to the masculine half, you see. And so when you bring these two together, then you're coming together in a wholeness, you see, and that is where you start opening up to your creative force or your creative power, you see. But the hero has to stand up in the Aries energy. This is where he makes his claim. This is where he says, okay, you know, I am now in a position where I can conquer any feat, just like I just read about Jason here, where the king put him to a test and told him, well, you can get the fleece, but only if you, perform this task. And see, this is the thing that is put in front of all of us, you see. We all have a personal dragon to slay, you see. But we're not looking at external, we're looking at internal dragons, you see. And when we slay these internal dragons, then we are in a position to stand up and make our claim on being able to access, or rescue the princess. Can you see what I'm saying? Stand up, as the hero, slay those dragons, especially those internal dragons that definitely has us still hooked up to the matrix, you see. We have to become unplugged. And that's what that warrior energy, that Aries energy does. It gives us the courage, to become unplugged, you see, and stand up and make our claim on our rulership. And by doing this, we open up, to the collective. See, because when we're looking at this side, we're looking at the personal side. When we're looking at this side, we're looking at the social side. So in other words, you're going to stand up in your own personal, heroic, and perform your feat to make your claim in order to fulfill the whole, you see, which is the feminine side, rescuing, It's all about, see, the masculine represents the spiritual, and the feminine represents the physical, you see. And so it's all about combining the physical with the spiritual in order to become whole. That's the ultimate opposite that we have to bring together in order to become whole. And it's only until we become whole that we do empower ourselves, you see. We do empower ourselves through that. See if I had another story here. Did have one on the celestial ship. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, page 47, 48. Okay. Because, and that's why I'm surprised more people aren't here, because this is now the new beginning. This is where we should be getting this information, understanding that this is the time, you see. Because the next sign after Aries is Taurus, which is the earth sign. And just like I said, so all of this really began as we started in, it would have been the Aquarius energy, the air energy, which is the age that we're moving into, you see, the Aquarian age, the knowing age. I know who I am, you see, which is the Aries energy. I am, you see. So once we know who we are from the Aquarius energy, you see, then through the Pisces energy is where we would cleanse of any impurities that would prevent us from stepping up, you see. That we cleanse of that, and then we're ready to empower ourselves through this Aries energy, you know, with that magical force, connecting up with our divinity, you see, because, you know, they couldn't pull King Arthur's sword up, you know, all the men tried. Only the hero could pull it out, you see, because that was through his divine right. And this is how we connect up with that. Through our divine right, we can be the heroes through the Aries energy. And as we demonstrate that, the knowing of who we are, you see, and then is when we can manifest, you know, our intentions from that Aries passion, you know, into the physical manifestation in Taurus, you see. And Taurus is the sign of growth, you see, where things take hold and start making its growth, you see. So right now is the time to be formulating, you know, what is your claim to your role in this universal fight, you know, to bring Mother Earth. And the only way, and Aries is a personal sign. It's a personal sign, okay? And but the only way to use that personal energy correctly is to stand up to your personal, you know, battle, you know, for the whole, you see. So that's what we need to do. We need to identify what is my role, you know, what do I need to do, you know, to step up and make my claim in being a spiritual warrior for the new age that's coming in, you see. And Aries is also a cardinal sign, which is a leader sign. So that means that you're making your claim to your rulership in this energy, you see. Those who step up now are showing themselves to the universe, you know, as ready to make their claim, you know, for in this new rulership, you see. So this is definitely not the time to be asleep. Just like they said about Jason, he woke for some reason he was asleep, you see, and then he wakes up and he do battle, you see, and make a claim in order to be able to, you know, claim the golden fleece, which is the solar power, and then move into this new crossover, you know, and move into this new paradigm that's opening up, you see. None of this stuff has actually happened. It's happened on a spiritual level, but it hasn't happened now. It hasn't happened physically until now. Now is the time, you see. All these stories we read about, even in the Bible, the Old Testament and all that, they're only symbolic of what's unfolding right now, you see. If we only understood what time it was, we would be in a constant celebration, you see. We would be in a constant celebration. It is time for us to celebrate. It is time for us to recognize, you know, our divinity and step up and make our claim to that. Here it says, I think I wanted to start there. Okay, 47, 48. Okay, 47. Okay. Let's see. I don't know why they got this in two parts. 35, 36, 37. No, I'm still not seeing. Okay, it says okay, it was talking about there, it says the origin of the Trinity is lunar, the three in one in nature. The moon was one as the moon was one as the moon, which was twofold as, no, this isn't it. I don't know why I had that page down there because it's not what I was looking to read. But anyway, let me see. See if I have some more here to read then, in this Sirius mystery here. Let's see. 5 to 89, yeah. Okay. Some more on Jason here. Yeah, Jason and the Argonauts. The hero, Jason, wishes to search for the golden fleece, which is known to be a solar symbol. The hero, his teeth are the teeth of a dragon, and in the Jason story, the hero sews the dragon's teeth. It talks about, it says here, Jason and the golden fleece. The golden fleece was given to Helena by the god Hermes. The Egyptian god Anubis became known to the Greeks as their son Hermes. And then it explains that the golden fleece origin by saying that Helena, who flew away on the golden ram's back to Caucasus, began falling on the way and giving the body of water its name. Okay, I didn't need to read that. It says that the ram's head was on the prow. Rather than having ridden the magical realm of the story, the fact that the more widespread myth, which had an actual realm in the story, maintained specifically that they flew on the golden realm, could refer to the idea of the celestial boat, and thus everyone is correct. In any case, this boat would definitely have been a boat of Egypt. It is worth mentioning also that the 50 Argonauts were also called the MAAT, and they were all related to each other and of the same family, descended all of them from the minions, with what had been the king of the minion. And it says Jason and Argonauts, 50 in number, all shared a kind of shadowy anonymity, somewhat reminiscent of the 50 Anunnaki of summer, as they were often referred to simply as the MAAT, a group of 50 related oarsmen in a celestial boat. So it all leads us back to the boat, the celestial ship, the Noah's Ark. You know, it's all about stepping up to that Aries warrior ship, claiming your right, you see, to actually be a part of that 50 that gets in that boat and makes that crossover. And, you know, this is why we always hear about the small remnant, you know, the 144,000, you know, the side of the mustard seed, because it's only going to be, and symbolically here, they're only using the number 50, you see. So we don't know what that can mean overall, but we know that it symbolizes a small number, you see, that will actually have access to making this celestial ship and making this crossover, you see, into this new paradigm. As we can see, you know, the number of people that are really responding to what they need to be doing for this Aries energy and stepping up to making their claim. And if you'll notice, Aries and Libra, you know, are opposites, you see. So if we're talking about the spiritual warrior here, and that's when we look at the heroes, then we're looking at the Christ energy here, okay? And when we're looking at this energy, we're looking at what we call the Anubis energy, okay? Which represents the Christ energy, which in mythology, these were two brothers, you see, Horus and Anubis, you see. Now, we go way back to the Great Mother and the 4 children that she had. You know, that's symbolic of the blackness of the universe. And we go back to her 4 children, which actually represents the 4 elements: the water, the earth, the air, and the fire, okay? Now, what happened is that it's like her 4 children, which we name as Isis and Osiris, Set, and Nephthys. How many of you have heard of Nephthys? None of you, right? Because she's the dark sister. She's the hidden power, okay? She's the counterpart of Isis. But Isis is so bright that she outshines and nobody knows, okay? Now, these 4 children, Set paired up with Nephthys, and they created like the kingdom of the dark. And Osiris teamed up with Isis, and they created what we call the kingdom of the light. You see, this is earth and water, fire and air, you see. But what happened, now if you look at here, this is earth, you know, this is air, this is water. Here's water over here. Water and fire are right next to each other, okay? So, Symbolically, that means that water and fire had a relationship, okay? They had an affair, okay? Osiris had an affair with Nephthys, okay? And they had a baby, and the baby was Anubis, okay? Then Osiris and Isis had a child, and that child was Horus, you see. So we're looking at Horus and we're looking at Anubis here, in opposition to one another, okay? Because Horus, you know, it's like Anubis is, you know, like it's just showing here the opposition with these two. Horus feels like, okay, this should be my right to inherit this kingdom because, you know, I'm the full-blooded child, Osiris and Isis, the kingdom of the light, you understand? After this affair happened, Set, we all heard, cut Osiris up into 14 pieces, okay? And then he decides, well, I think I'll have my own child, you know, since my lady had her child with somebody else. So he goes off to create the earth, okay, the daughter Earth, you see. But he gets, now remember symbolically, don't look too confused here, symbolically, okay? We're just trying to demonstrate what these energies are demonstrating here. So, anyway, so he goes off to create this earth, his daughter, but because he had cut Osiris up into 50 pieces, he was put into exile, you know. His judgment was to be put into exile, okay? Now, Nephthys, you know, wanting to do repentance, okay, and knowing that this daughter is going to have the mother also, you know, infuses her. She falls. This is how she falls and infuses herself into the earth to give the earth a chance, you see, to grow, you know. Without the father, without the mother, you see, that means Anubis has to go over to the kingdom of the light and deal, okay? And so now it's time for him to take his kingship. He has to take a bride, take his kingship, you see, so he can, you know, inherit the kingdom. And Horus is not feeling all that good about that. So that's why we have these two energies in opposition, you see. And it's all about reconciling, you see. And that's what's going to bring it into its fulfillment, because we're looking at the battle, you know, between Set and Osiris. We're looking at the battle between Horus and the Christ energy, or the Anubis energy. You know, the division between the dark and the kingdom of the dark, the kingdom of the light. And remember, we don't operate in our power unless we're together in fullness, you see. So that's what's supposed to be trying to open up now, you see. And as we step up and make our claim to fight that in harmony and in balance, you know, with our spiritual power, this is our personal power in combination with our spiritual power, you see, that brings us to our full, here we become a warrior for justice, or a warrior for peace, you see. And that's what we need to do in order to balance and harmonize and bring this into the fulfillment. We have to reconcile those battles, or those splits, you see, that have occurred, you see. Now we want to bring the kingdom of the light in harmony with the kingdom of the dark, or the hidden power, which is the Christ energy within us, you see, hidden, you know. That's what's in us and hidden that we now have to come in harmony with on an individual basis. And as we become in harmony with our own spirits individually, you see, that's what empowers us to step up, you know, and be a warrior and be able to bring about this fulfillment, you know. And as we do that on an individual level, and we do that as a collective, you see, that is representing the overall fulfillment, you see, that we're looking at having to acclimate ourselves in the next 10 years, you see. So that's what it's all about. Symbolically, it's all about bringing those two opposites together in harmony and in balance, which will represent a fulfillment overall. And not only does it represent a fulfillment for the earth, but it also balances out the universe, you see. So this is a universal thing that is going on here, you see. The problem is that we're too busy looking outside of ourselves, you see, that we're not, we're looking outside of ourselves for God to come and help us when we're not acting as the gods that we are, you see. We've been distracted from that, you see, because that is the hidden power. And when we bring that hidden power together, you know, with the power that is seen, you know, that is visible, you see, then, only then can we fulfill the prophecy, you see, and empower ourselves from the universe. Because once we do that, it's like bringing these two halves together, you see. And the only way that we can reverse and make the transformation, which is that Scorpio crossover, you see, is to, you know, to make that transformation, which means to kill off the old habits and then open up and liberate ourselves for the full empowerment, you know, in order to be able to be armed to fight this battle and come to our fullness, you see. And once we come to our fullness, then we reverse our rotation. That's when we make the transformation, and that's when we get in harmony with the universal forces, and that's how we empower ourselves. We pull in that energy from the universe, you see. So that is what this is all about, you know, getting in harmony with the both halves, bringing that kingdom of the light with the kingdom of the dark, you know, the masculine with the feminine, the negative with the positive, the physical with the spiritual, reconciling all opposites. That's the fulfillment. And only we have the capacity to do that. Just like I mentioned before, who was that only one that could pull the sword out of the stone? Was it Sir Lancelot, or I forget which one it was that could only pull the stone out? But only through the divine power and the divine right are you able to conquer and overcome, you know, the obstacles that are put in before us in order to empower ourselves, you see, and tap into the fullness of that energy, see. So that's the reason why we got them represented as oppositions, you see. So the reason why it has to be Anubis, which Horus doesn't understand, is because Anubis has both in him, the light and the dark. You see, it's his spiritual lineage that gains him that. So, you know, everything has to be balanced out, see. So if he is of the light and the dark, he is the one in the position, you know, to combine that, because his mother is of the dark, or the hidden kingdom, the unseen power, you know, but his father is of the king of the light, Osiris, you see. So he has both of those energies within him in order to be able to balance these two and reconcile, you know, this whole thing. Because it's all about reconciling those opposites and the split that occurred between originally Set and Osiris, you see, and then it, you know, unfolded to the Horus and Anubis, you know, Isis and Nephthys, of course, you know, all of these things gave us a split, you see, because Nephthys is only the counterpart of Isis, you see. She's the dark side, where Isis is the light side, you see, and nobody knows about her. Everybody thinks Anubis is Isis's child because that's the surrogate mother, since, you know, the mother and the father were absent, you see. So they all think it is Isis's child, but it's actually Nephthys, you know, the hidden power. And this is what we're about to manifest now. That's us. That's actually, see, Nephthys was actually the water element, you see, which I mentioned earlier is the element of the soul, you see. And the element of the soul is representative of the universal mother, you see. And so it's through the soul, or the water element, that we tap into the universe, you see. So that's how we empower ourselves from the mother. So this is really about the upliftment of the mother, not over the father, you know, like what happened before, because we did start with the feminine, we did start with the lunar rule, and then it's all about cycles, and then the masculine rule came in with Aries, you see, where it overpowered the mother and pushed her as the hidden power, pushed her into the dark, you see. Well, now the dark is about to come back and be manifest again, you see, but it's not going to overpower the light. It's just going to come in the balance and in harmony. In other words, it's going to make its complete cycle so that we are full and whole, and it shows its fulfillment. I do want to read you something from the Celestial Ship of the North in regards to that, about that dark and that light and the mother, because that's what we're doing. That's what's going to bring about the fulfillment, is to lift the mother back up again. It says here, here it is. It says, the beginning, space. It says, we're talking about the great mother. It says, she has been imaged as intensely black, her bosom bare, crowned with a golden pyramid, about which twined an immense serpent. Night and darkness belong as symbols to this very great antiquity. A super abundance of darkness metaphysically is light. Okay? Darkness adopted illumination in order to make itself visible. See? So the power comes from the dark, you see. The power comes from the hidden, you see. And so that is what is about to be manifest at this time. That is what all veils are now being lifted. And we're about to manifest that hidden power by tapping back into the mother, which is actually the universe, which is where we empower ourselves from, you see. And then this gets into, you know, like I'm always talking about, when you look at these movies and stuff that talks about the prophecy, you know, like the Fifth Element, the Matrix, you know, the Dark Crystal, and all of these, when we talk about the fulfillment, the last stage before fulfillment, you always see the male and the female come together. That's what this is really symbolizing, you see. It's just showing you that on an individual basis. But it's all about the male, which is the sun, you know, the light, you know, and then it's about the mother, or the feminine, you know, which is the dark or the hidden, you see. Both of them coming together in fulfillment, you see. That's what we see. The prophecy is fulfilled when those two come together. So that's what we, you know, are looking at. That's what's being symbolized, you know, when we look at that. Bringing the mother back in from the hidden strength that she is, so that, you know, it's all brought together in harmony. And only until we come together in that wholeness can we actually reverse our rotation and get in harmony with the universal forces. And that's where we reach our power at. That's where we open up to what it is that will step us up to our rulership for this new age and this new paradigm that's coming in. We are the new rulers for this new age, you see. And that's approaching very rapidly, you see. Right now, the gateway is definitely opening. You know, time is dropping. You see, we got probably what, 12 to 14 hours in a day now. And as the time drops, you see that gravitational pull releases us to access our spirit more, and the spirit to access us more, you see, so that we have a knowing, you know, about what it is we need to do in order to unplug from this matrix, you see, come into balance and in harmony, because within us, it's always a duality. It's always a double cycle. Anything you do on a singular basis, you're still doing in the physical. Anything you do on a spiritual, that's a collective, okay? Spirit is a collective of energy, you see. So, you know, so we have to move out of the personal and go into the collective in order to open up all of that energy for our access and our empowerment. So what we have to do is, you know, step up, and individually we have to, within ourselves, come into balance with our masculine side and our feminine side. We have to come into balance, you know, on an individual basis. And then the next level is to come into partnership with someone who has also come into balance with their masculine and their feminine side, you see. And when you connect up, you know, with that other person, what you've created is a double cycle of balance, you see. And then you're operating in a collective, and that's when you're coming into the highest level of that double cycle of balance, and that's when you start creating power. That's when you create energy, when you do a double cycle of balance, you see. See, I always say that the men are the external warriors, but the internal nurturers. And the women are the external nurturers, but the internal warriors, you see. So we have it in us, to do that, you see. We have it in us to come into balance, and then as we come into balance with what we call our twin souls. And the reason why we call them our twin souls, and this is somebody that you've had many lifetimes, building up your love with many lifetimes, and that's your spiritual mate, and at this time, it's time to culminate that love, you see. And it's just the twin souls. And the reason they call them twin souls is because they have to come together in equal measure, see, in equal strength, and that's how they come into harmony and in a balance, you see. So these twin souls coming together, individually or overall, represents the fulfillment, you see. So that's what we have to do. We have to come into balance within ourselves, and then hooked up with our twin soul, who is also coming into balance, you see. But now we're going to have to make that connection on a spiritual level, you see, and work out whatever it is that needs to be worked out on a spiritual level, so that by the time it manifests physically, it's nothing but to enjoy. It's the fulfillment, it's all about, opening up to that power. So we have to now work on that, work on coming into balance, connecting up with our spirit. Only our spirit is going to be able to put us on that path, you see. So we have to, wake up to getting at peace with our spirit, because this physical world is going down. It has to. In order for the spirit, since they're opposites, they can't occupy the same space at the same time. One has to give way to the other. And since we're moving into a spiritual time, that means we have to, there's going to be a breakdown or a degradation of the physical world, at least until it comes into balance, you see. So that's what we have. That's the part of what the Matrix is talking about, unplugging, you see. In other words, coming out of the limitations and the restrictions that someone has imposed upon you, you see, through emotional manipulation, you see, and through your own personal, going after your own personal gratification. See, if we stay on a personal level, then we'll continue just to struggle on that level, you see, and we'll stay plugged into the matrix, you see. It's not until we get at peace and in harmony with our spirit, and we know our spirit is going to give us the guidance as this chaotic time unfolds, because it is going to be chaotic. But if you're in harmony with your spirit, you fear nothing, you see. You understand that this energy that is breaking down is only breaking down for a new beginning. That's what transformation is, the death of the old, so there can be a rebirth of the new at a higher level. We want the apocalypse because we want the end of this, because it's not until this is moved out of the way that the new can open up at a higher level, the new that we will be ruling, you see. Because we're going to be ruling under the laws of the universe, which are guided by the principles of righteousness. And we're only coming in to rule, to reverse things, and take an unrighteous world and bring it into its righteousness, you see. There's no fixing this. There's no patching it up. We got to let it fall down. And the more that we let go of our own personal habits and all our personal desires and attachments to the physical, you see, and open up to the empowerment of our spirit, which comes from within us, you see, then is when we can come to our fullness, reverse our rotation, and then become in harmony with the universal forces and activate the fulfillment. And only we can do that, because we're the only physical beings with the spiritual capability, of bringing that spirit and that physical together. God only means wholeness, you see. And that's when we come to our wholeness, we come to our godhood, you see. And we have a responsibility to do that so that we can heal the earth, and balance the universe. This is a universal thing going on. And right now, in the Aries energy, time to step up to that, know your power, know from the Aquarius energy, that you are, that force or that power, and you do have, access to that power, to step up to your heroic deeds, and conquer your own internal dragons, you see, so that you can come in harmony and balance with your spirit, you see, and then be a participant, in turning things around, healing the earth, and contributing to the fulfillment, you see. And then, after that's occurred, step up to your rulership, you see. You'll be put over rulership. So, quickly, any questions? It's about to end. No questions? Yeah, but that's it,
About the relationship, I was just telling a friend the other day that I feel that you got to find that person who's on the same conscious level you are.
Absolutely.
So when you get together, it'll be even more power
Absolutely.
than it is separate. So
yes, and that, that's right, absolutely. And that's why I said twin souls, and that's why they call them twin souls, because they have to come together in equal measure. Not one iota this way or one iota that way. We have to come together in equal measures. That's why they call them twin souls.
Do you think the spirit will do that, connect you with your twin soul?
Oh, absolutely, because right now it's a spiritual thing. You see, everything is reversing now, where you have to make a spiritual connection and then let it manifest physically. And right now the universe is demanding fulfillment. So if you're dealing with anything that's not fulfilling for you, it's going to move it out of the way so that you can be in position to receive your twin soul as they make their appearance. But they're going to make it on a spiritual level first. It's going to be in your dreams. Whoever you're dreaming about right now, that's probably your twin soul. Whoever you're dreaming about, you're going to start making connections, telepathically in your dreams. That'll be your first clue. All those kind of things are going to happen on a spiritual level before they will manifest physically. And it's not until you fully extended that spiritual bond that you will be allowed to manifest the physical of that, you see. So when it manifests, it'll be in its perfection. Okay? Thank you, too, for coming out. We're going to keep on pushing, so next month, we'll be back up here next month. We'll be featured on the Taurus energy. Remember now, all of these energies are within you, okay? So don't just concentrate on your one sun sign. That's just a small fraction of who you are. You want to know all these energies, because once we get sensitive enough to these energies, you see, we can just empower ourselves through our minds, you see. We won't even have to do the rituals anymore, because the rituals are only to acclimate us to the sensitivity, to the energies. And that's what I'm trying to do here now, is give you a sensitivity to what all these energies represent. So when you need to empower yourself through any one of these energies, you'll know which one to tap into in order to access that power. So find out about all the energies, because you have all of them to tap into, okay? Thank you again for coming out. All right. Appreciate you.